Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. It's Paul here today doing the hosting duties for once. I'm joined by Callum. We're going to be talking about the results from yesterday because we're recording this on a Sunday evening. It was a great result for the Blues. We went down to Brighton and triumphed. A result that I don't think a lot of people were predicting. So this is the extra time segment for Brighton Hove Albion 0, Everton 2. And let's get into it then. So Callum, mate, I mean, maybe I was speaking for myself there when I said I wasn't predicting a victory down at Brighton, especially not around 2 o'clock when I saw what our team was going to be and how thin our bench was, especially. I was even more sure that 3 points were going to be too much of an ask for us. But hey, I'd love to be wrong. In this instance, we went down there and we got the victory. We wouldn't say it made it look easy, but we made it look relatively comfortable. What was your thoughts about the game?
Yeah, I don't think I ever expected us to get the 3 points. Well, not to get the 3 points, sorry, to get the 3 points as comfortably as we did. I thought if we did win it, it'd be kind of like the Leeds game where we were scrapping throughout and we were working on quick counters. They had much of the ball. That's what I was expecting. I didn't really expect Everton to come in and dominate the way they did. It definitely caught me off guard. I think it was a good sign, though. It showed that Everton can really compete against these high pressing teams that Brighton may not be the highest level opposition, being able to pick up big results at Brighton's grounds, big, especially since, last season we struggled against teams like Newcastle. Brighton, when we went to the Amex last season, battered us. We were very lucky not to get a draw. I think it's a good result, and I think I could see us moving forward from it. But yeah, I think I definitely didn't expect it to go the way it did.
No, me neither. I mean, I predicted a 0-0 in the preview that we did a couple of days ago. I didn't see many goals in this. I didn't think Brighton were going to particularly hurt us, considering their problems up front that are well documented. They don't score a lot of goals as a team, and I thought that with Dominic Calvert-Lewin's, I wouldn't say injury problems because he's not injured, but he's got a bit of a knock, hasn't he? I believe it's a broken toe, that he's not fully at it, is he? And we know Richarlison is hot and cold. He either turns up and he's great, or this for me was the sort of game that I'd written all over it. Richarlison having a stinker, which he has every now and again, and I'd say he performed below par in this game. We'll come on to him later, but to go down there and get a clean sheet and to get 2 goals, for me, it was absolutely magnificent. I mean, it wasn't like we went down there and we scrapped for the win, was it? In the sense that they were all over us and we just kind of hit them with sucker punch counter-attacks, and we basically had to ride our luck, and we had a lot of things go for us, like refereeing decisions, or maybe Brighton maybe missing hatfuls of chances. For me, the game was comfortable for the most part. I mean, Brighton had a lot of the possession. I'm not sure what the final stats were. I think at home especially, don't Brighton always finish around in the 60s, low 70s somewhere?
Yeah, around that.
Around that, yeah. I mean, Everton finished with less than 40%. I'm absolutely positive about that. But we were the team that I thought were looking most dangerous in the final third. I mean, Jordan Pickford made 2 or 3 stops, didn't he? But I think his opposite number, I can't remember what his name is, the Brighton goalkeeper, but he had a lot more to do than Jordan Pickford did. Going on to we'll go into the first goal, Demarai Gray. I mean, for me, this was the game more than any of the ones we've seen so far under Benitez, which highlighted the real style change we've had under him. We are now a counter-attacking side that absorbs pressure, or is happy to do that when needs must, whereas last season, under Ancelotti, it looked like we were kind of caught between styles at times. Like we were a bit of a hybrid. Like there were games where we went at the opposition and looked to play on the front foot. There were games where we were really passive and looked to sit off. There were games where I think we had a really good record from set pieces last season, didn't we? So were we a set piece team? Were we a team that looked to get on the counter? Were we a team that looked to have all the possession like we often did in those games with Goodison? But this game for me really highlighted that we are now lightning quick on the counter attack, and that's how we're looking to score goals, especially when we're away. So Demarai Gray picks up the ball after a wonderful pass by Alan, and he just runs and runs and runs. And rather than look to pick it to someone else, he just thinks, forget it, I'm going to take the shot on myself. And he gets a good connection and he just drives it into the far corner. And it was a beauty for me. And it came at a really good time in the game as well, when Brighton were having a lot of the possession and Everton were kind of maybe not saying struggling, but we were kind of very much the team that was, how do I word this? It didn't look like a goal was imminent for us when the goal came. So I wouldn't say it was out of the blue, but we didn't have like loads of chances before that. So we kind of caught Brighton cold a bit, and it seems until half time that they never really got the bearings again. So what were your thoughts on the first goal?
I think it was really good. I think it showed it really did, like you said, show the style change. Last season we were really slow on the counter. It was slow moving. It seemed like Ancelotti wanted the team to be able to be a really good balanced side. But I think when you've got a team like ours, a squad like ours, you can't really go for balance. You've got to find a niche and you've got to glue down on that and make sure you can do that really well. I don't think we've got the squad even close to be able to be well balanced yet when it comes to being able to do a bit of everything. But yeah, I thought it was really good. The pass from Alan was fantastic. And Damari Gray, what it seemed like, and it's kind of similar with the Leeds game, is that players kind of sag off Damari Gray a little bit because they've still got this, this idea that, that's the winger from Leicester with no end product. And, he's punished 2 teams doing that now. It's a beautiful finish. It's, arguably a striker's finish there. It's clear that the Brighton defenders were more focused on marking, the people around Damari Gray, Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, Townsend, and they've opening to shoot. And like he said in his interview after the game, give me that sort of room, I'm going to take it and shoot. He buried it perfectly. Great goal to get us into the game.
You mentioned a player there who I said I wanted to start in the preview, but I didn't necessarily believe he would, and that was Andros Townsend. I mean, you'd say it's the right decision now because we won the game and he played quite well, but were you surprised to see him in the lineup? Were you expecting a Wolby after this strong showing in the Cup midweek, or did you think this game was always going to be a fixture where Benitez dropped a bit of, how do I say this? Like, Iwobi's more of a free spirit, isn't he? And someone who kind of is. I don't want to sound like I'm doing him down when I say this, but he's not as disciplined as Townsend. If you tell Townsend to go out there and just do one job all day, he's happy to do it. Whereas Iwobi would kind of drift in and out, sort of thing. So, were you surprised that we dropped Iwobi and went for Townsend, or?
No, I expected Townsend to start. I think Townsend's going to be a player where if we're not going to have much of the ball, these teams are going to dominate possession. Townsend's a good outlet to have because in the end, he doesn't have to have blistering pace because all he has to do is, he's got that work rate and then play those crosses. That's what I'll take those long shots. He's a player that suits us more when we're on the ball a lot. Huddersfield being a good example. We're on the ball a lot. He's a player who can do a lot when he can control possession, when he can hold the ball, when he can drive with the ball. I don't really think he suits the way we want to play because he plays a very similar role to Damari Gray. So I think if it was anyone who'd get dropped for Iwobi, it would be Damari Gray, but that's definitely not happening right now. And yeah, I think Townsend suits these fixtures more where we're going to be less possession and all we need is quick crosses, quick passes. I think it suits much more Iwobi because Iwobi likes to drive more. Townsend will just get rid of the ball if necessary.
Yeah, you've just basically said what I was trying to say for me. I think Townsend is very much more a defensively minded winger than Iwobi is. Not saying that Iwobi doesn't make the effort in tracking back, and because I think he does a lot of the time, but with Iwobi, you can kind of, especially if he gets on the ball and when he's in form the way he is, he's that type of player who might take an unnecessary risk, and that's something you don't want against the Brighton with the form they're in and the way they knock the ball around so well. Just a split second, too long on the ball, and Iwobi could lose it, and then we're under the cosh. Whereas, as you mentioned, if you give Townsend the ball or he's tracking back, then he's going to have one thing on his mind: just get the ball clear. Or if he's on the ball in the attacking third, get the ball in the box. He's not going to dither on it. He's not going to take too long to pick out a pass. He's not going to just run down a blind alley. He's going to just basically look to move the ball on as quickly as he can, and that's what we needed in this. Just keep the ball down in Brighton's half and not let them build up any head of steam. Go back to the defensive pairing now. I mean, I think our hands were tied a bit because Ben Godfrey's clearly not ready to start yet. I had a feeling that he wasn't going to play in this game because there was pictures of him on Friday night on social media going rounds of him in the town centre. So I had a feeling that, I don't think he's made the trip down there. But then when the lineup came out, it looked Yerry Mina wasn't involved. Hopefully that's not anything too serious. But Mason Holgate and Michael Keane, who've had a lot of criticism since the season started, they were the pairing again, and they had a really solid showing for me. And is there any thoughts that you've got on them? Did any one of them particularly impress you? Are you up for maybe leaving them in the team long term, or is it still as soon as Mina and Godfrey are available, they've got to be the first choice, the centre-back partnership?
I think Holgate stood out quite particularly. I think Holgate, one thing, as I mentioned this earlier to someone, is he didn't seem to stick on the ball as long as he usually does. Holgate would get the ball and then he'd release it quickly, something we've been asking him to do for a long time, instead of sitting on the ball, doing about 40 spins with the ball and then passing it backwards and or running right into a striker trying to take him on. He'd pick up the ball, he'd get rid of it quickly, and he got rid of it well. He was winning tackles, he was intercepting, he was doing everything you'd want from a ball-playing defender. Michael Keane, I think Michael Keane was solid, didn't really stand out. Typical Michael Keane. I think it was better, but at the same time, it's not hard to get better when in the past 2 games in the league you've made, goal conceding mistakes. So it's an improvement from Michael Keane. I think Holgate looked very solid, and if he can keep this up under Rafa, then he's a very good rotational centre back to have behind Godfrey and Mina.
Yeah, I mean, first clean sheet of the season. I've been hoping for a clean sheet for weeks now, because I think, especially under Benitez, who is a pragmatic manager, you've got to get on a run of clean sheets. We've won games since he's come in, but we haven't looked at all solid at the back, and I'm hoping that changes now. I had someone else on my mind then who was going to bring up. I mean, yeah, it's come back to me now. Doucouré. I mean, Doucouré had an outstanding game alongside Alan. Would you have either one of them as your man of the match, or is there someone else that you'd pick? Or
definitely Alan. Another thing we've said, this might have been Alan's one of, if not his best game in an Everton. He was
for me.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Not even just defensively, the ball to Andre Damari Gray.
Yeah.
I knew that. I was waiting for that to happen eventually. The ball to Damari Gray, the defensive contributions, driving the ball forward. It's kind of like we've got. The thing is with Argyle that I do like is it seems like when one of them gets the ball, the other one sits back. So there's no lockdown role now. If Alan wants to be the one to drive forward, or he'll sit back forward, Alan will sit back, or if we're dominating, both of them go forward. I think it's a kind of a unique dynamic that we have, in that we don't have a set defensive midfielder. It depends who's on the ball. It depends what side of the pitch is on.
They complement each other really well, and we saw it at times last season, but I don't think we saw the best of either one of them together in this game. It seemed like if one of them played well, then the other one kind of played okay. Whereas this was the first time that I can remember, at least, that those two as a centre-back partnership just absolutely bossed the game together. I mean, Doucouré is the athlete. He's the one who's going to get forwards. He's the one who's going to be just providing all the energy there, going to be the pain in the backside for the opposition to deal with. And Alan is the intelligence, isn't he? I mean, Ancelotti just used him purely as a number 6, didn't he? Someone who just sat in front of the back 4 and just made the short passes and the tackles. But there's the times last season I thought with Alan's age and his lack of pace maybe caught him out at times, especially against high-press teams. He's a really good player, but he's definitely got weaknesses. But I think this was the first time I saw those two complement each other really well, where they were covering for each other. So the things that Doucouré necessarily isn't great at, which is, I think, always being in the right place we need him to be at times. I don't want to sound like I'm running these players down here. What I'm trying to say is there's things that obviously each player is better at the other one than doing. They've both got limitations, like every player has, but they're going to complement each other really well. When Alan can't get around the pitch because he hasn't got the legs, it's going to be Doucouré who's doing that job for him and mopping up. When Doucouré's maybe caught out of position because he's been joining in an attack, it's going to be Alan who's sitting in behind, who's going to be making sure that he's providing the shield for the back 4 and allowing us to regain our shape. It's a lot like the old Gareth Barry-McCarthy partnership, which I think we've been lacking for years since those two had that great partnership in the early Martinez years. I don't really think we've found a centre midfield partnership that's come anywhere close to matching that, have we?
Not even close at all.
Not close at all. So hopefully we found our new McCarthy and Barry. We'll come on to the second goal now. The penalty. I mean, I don't think there's any argument at all that it might not have been a penalty. Of course it was. It was another fantastic pass through the lines by Alan. Coleman got on the end of it, and I think he did really well. And he got his body across. He made sure that the only way the defender was going to get to the ball was by completely checking him and taking him out. And for me, it was an absolute no-brainer. I can't believe. Did they go to VAR for it? I think they did, didn't they? Or was that the?
Yeah, but I think you have to with penalty situations.
Well, you don't necessarily have to. When it's clear as day like that, then
I think
there
that's
shouldn't be any
I
argument,
think
should
that's
there?
the
But
rule. I think
if it
they've just
is,
got to
then
go to VAR.
bloody hell. I mean, we'll have that conversation another day. But yeah, it was an obvious penalty. And I think it came just before the hour, didn't it? Another great time to get a goal, because if you get a goal at that time in the game, obviously there's still time for the other team to come back and get back into it. But that's the type of goal when it will just knock all the wind out of their sails. And if you can survive that, maybe last after you get the second goal, if you can get 5-10 minutes just controlling the game after that, then it's just going to be very, very easy for the other team to chuck the towel in, which is what I think they subconsciously did a little bit. But obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, it was the one who eventually took it and put it away. Brilliantly struck as well, I must say. But there was the situation with Richarlison taking the ball and looking for a long time, like he wasn't going to give it up. And we had a little bit of a confrontation with his colleagues. I mean, are you reading much into that? Do you think people are maybe being a bit over the top? And because I've seen Richarlison getting criticised, and he's bit back a little bit on his Instagram. I think he wrote something back in Portuguese at someone, calling him a name or something. Like, obviously someone's been saying something to him that on social media, and he's replied to it, and it's not been like your typical footballer's response where it's like, oh, never mind, the team is what's important, blah blah blah. I think he actually kind of showed his temper a little bit at that supporter who was criticising him. I don't want to repeat what he said, but it was in Portuguese and the translation wasn't very nice. So do you think it's going to be something that just blows over really quick, or do you think it's a sign that maybe not all's not right in the dressing room, or maybe Richarlison's maybe had his head turned a little bit by the speculation in the last few days?
I think he has had his head turned, but I don't think that means he's going to force a move. I just think he's got emotional, and I think it was confusion because from what he said on the before, I didn't think it was I think it was like a Portuguese, like Instagram or Brazilian account keeps up with like the good Brazilian players, and
Yeah.
he said what he said was, well, in the hierarchy, I've meant to be next up, but I think he doesn't understand that means if there's 2 penalties in a game, he takes the second one, not if there's 2 penalties in back-to-back games, he takes the one in the next game. I think he got confused. And I think, obviously, he's not listening. And, we know Richarlison's emotional. We know what he's like. I don't think he intentionally... I don't think he would try... Because at first it looked like he's trying to fight his teammates, but I don't think that was the case. I think they were just... The players were smart and they just moved Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison away from each other before it became a bad situation. Because even when Calvert-Lewin scored, in the little huddle of players, he's trying to talk to Richarlison and explain it to him. So in the end, I think it'll blow by. And listen, if Richarlison has had his head turned by PSG, it doesn't really matter, because unless PSG offers £100 million, then they don't get him. It's as simple as that, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, some people are desperate to make a story out of it. I know Match of the Day zoomed in on Richarlison's face after the goal went in, and he still looked like he wasn't happy. But as you just pointed out then, he joined in the celebrations in the huddle, and it looked like they had words, Calvert-Lewin, and it was all friendly, or friendly enough. I noticed that there were certain players who kind of stepped into that situation though, and showed some real leadership qualities, which I was really happy about. Townsend, I mean, a few weeks ago when the Townsend deal was announced, I was on here basically saying that it's something the club should absolutely not be doing, that Townsend probably doesn't have anything to offer, but I'm happy to hold my hands up when I was wrong. And for me, he offered an awful lot in that situation, because he was the one who was straight over to Richarlison saying, no, you have to understand the I don't know what it was, the rules, should we say, has been set. The manager's given us instructions. This is how things are. Essentially, you are not the first choice penalty taker. Calvert-Lewin is the first choice penalty taker. Give up the ball. Do you know what I mean? And he's a new guy. It could be very easy for him to just kind of walk away and look at the floor, or start tying his shoes and not look to get involved, because he's, as I said, he's a new boy, isn't he? He probably doesn't want to get involved in the politics of the changing room. But no, fair play to him. He's an experienced player, and he showed his experience. And the same of Alan, and I was really glad Alan got involved, because Alan's a Brazilian. We know he's good mates with Richarlison. I've seen them together on the Everton YouTube channel, sort of like messing around and having like kind of funny discussions with each other. And even one of his best mates in the squad was going up to him and saying, no, you're out of order here. You need to step aside and let Calvert-Lewin take the penalty. So it didn't seem like Richarlison had any sort of allies in that situation, which will hopefully make him reflect on it and think, you know what, when everyone of my teammates, even the ones who I consider close mates, were telling me I was wrong, then I must have been wrong. So hopefully it blows over. And yeah, we got the second goal, and it didn't necessarily kill off the game, but it made everyone breathe a lot easier, and it surely sealed at least a point for us, because when was the last time Brighton even scored 3 goals in a game? I can't remember it ever happening.
They did it. They were 2-0 down against Man City and came back. The game before City played us and smashed us 5-0.
The back end of last season?
Yeah, I think they were 2-0 down and they came back to win 3-2.
Oh, I don't remember that. But the point I was trying to make was if you go 2-0 up against Brighton, then you don't necessarily think you're going to come out of the game with nothing, because they're a team that's notorious for not scoring many goals, are they? So the rest of the game, it played out relatively comfortably. Maybe we should have had another penalty late on. I guess it doesn't really make a great deal of difference, but we used some substitutions. Andre Gomez got on and got a few more minutes. Iwobi got on, got a good amount of time on the pitch. Do you remember who the third substitution was? Did we make one? I know it was a Calvert-Lewin came off for Iwobi, and I think Gomez came on. Yeah, but who was the third?
Gomez. I know that because I got Andre with the Huddersfield game.
I remember at one point Anthony Gordon was warming up, and then I think he ended up sitting back down, and Gomez came on.
I don't know if we made.
So I'm not sure if we made a third substitution. It's escaping me, and I don't really want to be taking a couple of minutes now to kind of search for it. But it seems like the squad's in a really good place, is what I'm saying. It's like everyone feels like everybody, except at least the ones who are going to be hanging around past this transfer window, they're all kind of getting on the pitch, and they're contributing, and they're getting minutes in the legs and things like that. So other than the players who we know are definitely leaving, like Moise Keane and Rodriguez, and maybe a couple of the young lads on loan, it kind of feels like there's no unhappy campers in the squad. I mean, assuming that what we've been saying about Richarlison's true, that it's just a storm in a teacup, it kind of doesn't feel like there'll be any players knocking on Benitez's door saying, why aren't I getting any more minutes? What about me? How come you're not giving me a chance, type thing? So it just feels it was a really morale lifting win, and it's exactly the sort of start Benitez needed, because there's positivity going in the fan base now. Kind of everyone's smiling, everybody's upbeat, everyone's reasonably optimistic that we can carry this form on for a little while, and by the time the winter months come, that we won't be kind of in any sort of trouble. We can be looking up the table rather than down. And obviously we're hoping that we can get in a few more names in before Tuesday when the transfer window shuts. But it's exactly what the doctor ordered. We needed to have a start of the season where the supporters were upbeat and the supporters weren't looking for reasons to be upset, because I don't think any supporter can really point at anything and be upset by it, because obviously we're an emotional fan base, we're a reactionary fan base, and there's always going to be that section of supporters who, because they don't like Benitez, because of his Liverpool links, are going to say, well, look at this over here, we shouldn't, let's have a go at him for this reason. It just feels like they haven't got any of that. There's no reason to not be happy with Benitez so far.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people being like, a lot of, the rougher out people, well, this exact situation happened last season, and look how that turned out. I think it's clear that there's an improvement now. I think, in those first games against and for Ancelotti, it was everything clicked and everything felt right. To be honest with you, I don't think this first run is that everything's clicked. I think we're just performing well. I think, when everything clicks, it'll be when Richarlison's fully in, when Calvert-Lewin's scoring 2 in a game, when the defence looks really solid. I think everything clicked early. I think now it's just solid performances, good performances, I think. And I do think, like last season, we have a good start to the season. I think it's something that we really do need to take advantage of. We need to, I think next it's Villa, then Norwich, and then Man United, I think.
I think our next game is Burnley. Burnley at home Villa. On the Monday night, yeah.
Burnley, Villa, Norwich, Man United. And I think, if we can beat Burnley, which I think definitely should be able to, Villa, everything hasn't clicked for Villa yet. So I think we'll be able to I think we can beat Villa. If we can pick up, 9 points out of a possible 9 in the next 3 games. This is what I said to, Mike from the Blue Boys Network. Do that. It then gives us real, leeway.
Before you know it, we could be on 20 plus points, and that's a real platform to build off going in before we're even in the winter months. Yeah,
And then it gives us a real leeway against a team like Man United, where if we do lose, it's not the end of the world. And then, even just 1 point is a serious, it's a good thing for us. So I think we do need to pick up as many points from these smaller teams as possible, because that's what got us last year. And, there is only, 4 top teams in the end in the Premier League. I know there's Leicester, but if there's the big 4 that, if you're picking up points against 15 other teams, but you're dropping points against 4, that's naturally going to finish higher up in the table. That's how it works. So I think we need to really prioritize picking up first against the small teams, and then, maybe not going all out for against the bigger teams, but just game. And that's probably where we'll see Rafa's pragmatism. And, if we can get into a game against, for example, like a Chelsea, like against Man United, because we've shown last season we can score goals against Man United at will. And I think really it's just a sort of thing where we want the points now to put us in a good position in the future, because unlike Ancelotti, I just don't think we'll throw the points away like we did under him. And that's, that's not me trying to throw Ancelotti under the bus, but I just do think he didn't know what to do when our big players got injured. I think Rafa will be prepared for that situation.
No, I agree with that 100%. We're on 7 points out of 3 so far. Our next game is Burnley at home. It's going to be on the Monday night after the international break. And did you say it's Norwich after that, or Aston Villa?
I think it's Burnley, Aston Villa, Norwich, or it's Burnley, Norwich, Aston Villa.
Yeah. And then I know we play Man United after that, and that's going to be at Goodison Park. So the next 4 games, out of the 12 points we could pick up, I think we can absolutely get, let's say, 8 out of those. We could win 2, draw 2. I think that's well within our capabilities, especially if we've got a fully fit squad and we've improved on that squad with what we've got left of the transfer window. As I touched on before, you want to just get as many points on the board as possible early doors. So when the toughest part of the season rolls around in November, December, January, that we're not thinking, right, a couple of bad results are going to see us tumbling down the league, and then all the kind of plans that we had and the ambitions that we were hoping to achieve, they're pretty much out the window by March time, sort of thing. So if we can get to 20 plus points before December 1st, then we put ourselves in really good stead. Or if we can get to 30 points before January gets here, then you're looking at getting again on for 60 points over the course of the season. I mean, we finished on 59 last year, which was pretty good considering how thin the squad was and how appalling the home record was. And 59 points most seasons would get you in the top 8, and it only got us, I think, 10th was what we finished. 10th, so 60 plus points would surely this season at least get us 7th. So that should be the aim, at least for me, in the first season under Benitez. Get 60 plus points, get us some form of European football, and if you can throw a cup run in there, then not even better. But we are going to have stiffer tests to come. I mean, it's great that we're winning now and we're looking solid, if not spectacular at the moment. But the real, as you touched on, Benitez is managerial chops, shall we say, and whether or not he's genuinely improved this Everton team, that's going to be tested when we come up against the likes of your Chelseas, your Cities, your Liverpools, your Uniteds. If we can go in against those teams and hold our own and hopefully get points and then beat all the teams who you theoretically think we should be beating, the likes of your Burnleys, your Norwiches, your Brightons, if we can get points on the board in all of those games, then we're going to be somewhere very, very good in the latter half of the season. So is there any thoughts that you've got just to, as we look to round out the video now, is anything else that you want to touch upon or anything you want to mention, or is there anything prior to the transfer window shutting that you want to get off your chest? Because I'm not sure if we're going to do another video between now and the transfer deadline day stream.
Well, I think it's stuff that we'll mention on the deadline day, but I just think we need to bring in possibly a starting right back and then a few more rotational pieces maybe. I think we need to have a strong enough squad, especially if we want a cup run. Because the big problem we ran into last season was Digne got injured, and then right after it was Alan, and then it was Calvert-Lewin for a little bit, and then it was Pickford, and then it was, and then we got
Calvert-Lewin got the team for a couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, and then Doucouré got his injury.
That was the killer.
I think Coleman got injured as well. So I think we need to make sure that if someone gets injured, we have at least a suitable replacement to step into the squad. because that's the one thing that really punished us last season. So hopefully that's something we can do over the next 2 days.
I hope so as well. I mean, you touched on it before. We had a really good start last season, and everyone was kind of loving life, and just the mood throughout the fan base was really, really good, like it is now. But as soon as the injury started, then it just all seemed to fall away, didn't it? And we can't have that happen again. And that will happen again unless we make substantial signings and improvements to the team before the transfer deadline shut. So, I mean, Moise Keane, as of tonight, is in, so that deal's, I think, is done necessarily. He's going back to Juventus. I mean, we don't know what's going on with James Rodriguez. 1 minute he's going back to Porto, then the next minute he's not going back to Porto. We've seen reports tonight, as of this recording, that Porto not as keen on that deal anymore. Hopefully not. Hopefully we do still get that Diaz kid who is linked to becoming the other way. We might as well mention it quickly because by the time we do another video, he might have signed. I mean, Solomon Rondon's getting linked tonight quite heavily. Looks like that deal has legs in it, or the story's got legs in it. Maybe the deal is getting worked on at the moment. So I'm hoping we see something in the next couple of days, which makes us think that, right, after Tuesday is over with and we can just focus on the rest of the season, the results, business, then we're going to be really positive, thinking, right, we can really improve on last season substantially. We can get over 60 points. We can stay in and around the top 6 or 7 throughout the season. If we do lose maybe 1 or 2 games, then it's not going to feel like all the hard work from the weeks beforehand's all been undone like it did last season. So, yeah, to round this out, it was a really good performance, a really good win. 2-0 away at Brighton, a team that a lot of people, non-Evertonians, were picking us to lose. I noticed a lot. I didn't see many neutrals who thought we could go down there and do that. But we proved them wrong, and we proved, at least myself, wrong. I didn't think we could do it either, considering the injury situation. But great. Thanks very much for listening. Make sure to subscribe for more videos. And remember, we are going to be doing a transfer deadline day live stream on Tuesday night. Hopefully we'll have a good laugh and we'll have some good business to discuss. I remember the last time I did one back in January when we got Josh King. It was a really good night. So hopefully we'll see you boys, see everybody then, and I'll speak to you again soon, Callum. But for now, make sure you drop us a like and a subscription, and up the Toffees. Let this carry on.